Hey everybody, my name is Jacob Seyer, and I am super duper excited to be here today to answer your questions on songwriting, composition, and arrangement. Let's get to it. Shad's coming in with our second question and asks, where do you get the conceptual inspiration for your songs, and how do you go about pairing your compositions with song titles? So, before we get started, I want to thank all of you because we broke our second Patreon goal. We have 18 people over $1,000 a month. It means I'm going to produce 2 videos for you guys a month now. So at the end of this video, to thank you all, I'm going to take you around and show you my new studio. So enjoy the video, and I'll see you at the end. So I'm going to speak more on the emotional and story building side of things for now, and then later on, there's another question that covers more of the technical aspects of actually pairing musical elements with emotional elements. The most fundamental place that I draw inspiration from is from personal experience. Sometimes that experience connects to a broader human experience as well, but I'll get more specific about particular tunes and the stories behind those in a minute. There are times that I don't know the concept of a song until well after it's written. I find that if I can take a break from the physical side of things, it offers me a lot of mental clarity on how to contextualize the music. On the other hand, there are times when I have a specific story or a specific emotion that I really want to sit down and convey through musical gestures to my listeners. Zeke is coming in with a similar question and asking, where do you find most of your inspiration outside of listening to other music? To get more specific about where I find my musical inspiration, I think I'm going to break down just a couple of my songs, have you go listen to them, and see if the story that I'm telling resonates with you in the same way that the music depicts. Bound from my 2018 album Migration is one of those pieces that I think does a great job of capturing the drive and the atmosphere that I was experiencing at the time it was written. Not long after I moved from my home in Missouri, I was in line to get married to my wife Devin, and I was about to really heavily pursue my career in music by getting a master's degree, and I was also experiencing just the vast beauty of the Pacific Northwest for the first time. One of our favorite things to do in the Northwest is to go to Mount Baker Snoqualmie Forest and just hurl ourselves, just race ourselves through these really rugged trails that would give us huge mountain views and thick forest views, get really out of breath, and you're breathing in this really refreshing air. It was all just like completely new to me, and I knew that this chapter in my life was a really exciting one looking forward. And so far it has been. I still kind of feel like I'm in the middle of that chapter. And another cool thing about this is that Devin actually helped me write one of my favorite sections of the whole piece with the timestamp right here. And that section just is so invigorating, almost as invigorating as going to the mountains and getting super tired and dirty. Next up, listen to my 2 pieces, Intimation and Danza. If you are an insomniac like me, I think you'll understand better where these little musical chaos monkeys came from. Home and Reunion are 2 pieces that are paired together in the sense that Home makes me feel great nostalgia towards my home in Scott City growing up, and Reunion kind of gives me this sense of excitement looking forward into the future and kind of creating those memories for my family and my sense of self. Instrumental music obviously lacks lyrics to directly deliver your story, so it can be especially tricky to fuse story concepts and emotional concepts with proper musical gestures. So generally, when I sit down to write music, I have to do a lot of internal work first. On the complete opposite side of the spectrum, I just gave you all these details. Some of my favorite artists will just name their songs after food or animals, or will string together huge long sentences that have nothing to do with anything from my perspective. So there's that side of things too. Shad, Zeke, thanks for your questions. Meghan and Taya both have very similar questions, so I'm going to kind of glom them together and answer them both with a little bit more detail. So Meghan starts us off by saying, as Jacob the writer/composer, I would like to know how you write. Is it the same process each time, or is it song depending? And then Taya comes in and asks, what is your songwriting process like? As I mentioned before, there are a lot of different ways to approach writing music, especially if you're focusing on instrumental music. Each one of my songs contains different materials, but the longer I write, the more patterns I'm beginning to recognize. First and foremost, I don't think it's too selfish to say that I want to write music that I want to listen to. Here are 3 points that I like to consider when I'm looking for music in my taste. Number 1 is to reflect on what you want to write about and explore sounds on your instrument that transmit those emotions and that inspiration. Number 2, create a story arc by organizing your raw musical material with musical form. Number 3, fill in the details and add color with improvisation and variation. So let's break these down. Whenever I sit down with the intention to write, the first thing I want to do is to just noodle. And all that means is I'm sitting down to improvise to spawn new musical ideas, new motives, new themes. Those themes are designed to help me express what I'm feeling. I've already mentioned that most of my emotional and storytelling content comes from my own personal experience as a 6-foot-tall earth-dwelling homunculus. So here are a few technical instrument-based ideas that usually help inspire me when I'm writing. The first thing to do when you're trying to come up with new themes is to just get back to basics. Pick from bouncing around rhythmic ideas to coming up with catchy melodic lines, or just kind of resting back on a rich bed of harmonic structure or chord progression. The second thing I like to do when I'm trying to come up with new ideas is to explore new alternate tunings, because sometimes when I'm just messing around with the tuning pegs up here and I find a bunch of intervals that really relate well and I strum all 6 open strings or a 12th fret harmonic, that rich, deep sound of the open strings on the guitar can really give me a new vibe or kind of a new atmosphere for some new ideas. If you're intimidated by getting into open tunings, just find yourself an electronic tuner and get on Google and type in list of alternate tunings for guitar and you're golden. The last thing I want to do when I'm trying to come up with new ideas is to explore both ends of the music composition spectrum. First, write as an experiment. Do this to exercise yourself, to exercise your musical intelligence, and maybe try out some new technique that you've learned. On the other end of the spectrum, write as a means of emotional expression or coping. Sometimes my outlet in music just needs to be void of emotion and I just need to sit down basically to do a job. I want to keep myself busy, I want to exercise my fingers, I want to try some new scales or arpeggios, and not really think too much about what I'm feeling because there's so much going on right now. But then there's the other end of the spectrum where I really need the guitar to be that outlet of expression, where all of that technical stuff I've been working on has given me the tools to express gestures in a way that is effective. Exploring these concepts from the beginning of my process allows this tune to have sort of a relatable foundation for the rest of the song to build on. Now, let's look at weaving all of these ideas that we've come up with through a formula. Form is what helps us to organize our ideas into a structural arc. We've already talked a little bit about form, but let's go into a couple of different styles, and I'll mention a couple of the tunes that I've used these styles with so you can go in and see if you can hear the different sections. The first, sonata form, or it's also referred to as ABA form or ternary form. One piece that I've written that I found was actually written pretty well in sonata form is called Integrate, which you can watch right here. Another is called binary form, or AABB form. My tune Bloom is one that uses this form. Then there's rondo form, or ABACABA. Abacaba, some might say. It's a cheap light. Anyway, don't need it.
Abacaba.
One of my tunes that uses rondo form is Of the Mind's Eye. Give it a listen, see if you hear it. Another form that you can think about is arc form, or ABCBA. Abacaba. And finally, there's just standard verse, chorus, song form. This has been varied on a lot, but typically what you're going to find is an intro, a verse, a chorus, maybe a half verse, another chorus, a bridge, another verse. Is that what I wrote? No, after the bridge you get a chorus and then an outro. One way we can view these musical storytelling forms is as a sort of journey. A being the starting point, B being the departure into unfamiliar territory, C sometimes learning something new about that territory, almost as if you're like growing into that unfamiliar grounds, and then A, which is returning back to the main theme.
We were home.
If you take these ideas and apply them to all of the forms that we just mentioned, you might find that your themes or your hooks go through a really interesting transformation. And remember that these are only guidelines. If you're ever having trouble writing a song, you can refer to these songwriting forms as a way to sort of build your foundation first. You might find that you want to rearrange some of these sections just because it's more interesting for you, and that's totally fine. So now, once I've set my form, I always think it's really fun to go in and kind of tinker with some things, add variation, and kind of shake things up a little bit. Typically our B sections and our C sections are where we want to do the most variation. Sections like the A section or choruses are like the parts that get stuck in people's ears, so we want to keep those relatively stable. Here's how you can change things up both in kind of generalized terms and more technical terms. Think about the textures of your song, like loud versus soft, or a full arrangement versus a very thin arrangement. Lots of instruments versus one instrument, for example. Contrasting both of these things, loud versus soft and full versus thin, is a way to either draw your listener in or surprise them. A more specific and advanced tool in variation and improvisation is by adding ornamentation to parts of your melody. There are many different types of ornamentation, so here are just a few. There is a mordant, which is just a single compound slur. There is a trill, which are repeated compound slurs. There's the appoggiatura, which is approaching the melody note by leaping a little bit further past it and resolving in the opposite direction by step. Then there's the grace note, which is the single one-note slur. And let's add one more for now, which is a turn, a three-note compound slur in one direction and a one-step resolve in the opposite direction. A quick generalized tip to wrap everything all up nice and tidy: always stay alert as to how quickly things get confusing. If I'm early on and I start running into too many problems, like technical problems or storyboarding problems, I'll just give this piece a rest, I'll simplify it, or I'll even just put it away. That's not to say that complex ideas can't work, but the most complex ideas usually stem from something simple. I try to be specific about whether I'm going to start from simplicity or work inward from complexity. This is a huge question and I'm still not even scratching the surface, so thank you both, Taya and Meghan, for your questions. That's all I have for you today, folks. Thank you all for watching my video. If you feel like you've learned something today, or you just liked hanging out with me and talking music, please like this video and subscribe to my channel below for bi-monthly musical content. Okay, y'all, the time has come to do the quick studio tour, so I'm gonna turn you around and show you this wall. First, Sundays at 3 was Devin and my first concert together. There's a bookshelf. You hear a cat going on in there somewhere. Bookshelf with all of our good books on it. This is the wall, the GR Bear, with a couple of sweet vinyl. I'm gonna get a couple of Tigran records to put up there pretty soon. But there is my handmade GR Bear guitar. It is a beauty. It has been my workhorse for a couple of years now. And there's a cat over here meowing at me. Got my Drunken Lullabies Flogging Molly record. Here are my wife's degrees in an amazing painting by my sister Jordan. Master's degree, bachelor's degree from Devin, and then over here you get my master's degree, my bachelor's degree. A bunch of, walking sticks that I've made over the years too. That's a cool little hobby I got. And here's the desk. This is the workspace. This is where I've been editing videos and producing for the last couple of weeks. I am really enjoying having a real desk and having a place to keep all of my books and having a functioning space to edit our videos. And then finally, the ultimate guitar wall. I'm just gonna take you through real briefly, and oh yeah, Luigi.
Oh yeah!
Here. Can't forget Luigi. So I'm gonna take you through here and just kind of show you a little bit about each of these guitars. So of course my guy.
Wow.
And then this is my Takamine G series. This is what I recorded my album A Change in Season on back in 2013. This is a Luna ukulele gifted from Devin's uncle Larry when she was wielding a machete in Hawaii for work. And this is Devin's violin, which is she's had since she was a teenager. This was a gift from her ethnomusicology professor for graduating with her master's degree at UBC. This is my mom's violin, and it was gifted to Devin from my mom last Christmas. It was amazing. And here is a sweet little guitar that has all of my students' signatures on it from Vancouver just before I left to come back down to Bellingham. And finally, this is my Patrick Maillot. This was the workhorse that got me through graduate school. This is a double top cedar spruce, and I love this instrument. So I just have to thank all of you again. 18 of you. You have helped me break my second goal on Patreon to make this studio happen and to make this workspace a dream come true. So I'm gonna say bye to y'all through this little mirror, I guess. It's been a pleasure. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I will talk to you guys soon. Peace. I want to invite all of you watching right now to please visit my Patreon page and consider supporting this channel. Stay safe, everyone. Wash your hands and be kind to one another. See ya. Bye.